The scorching summer afternoon turned into a nightmare when Michael's phone rang at exactly 3:47 p.m. He was in his garage, changing the oil in his pickup truck, when Lisa's voice crackled through the speaker, trembling with panic and fear. Her words came out in a rush, barely making sense as she tried to explain what was happening at Miller Park's playground. "Mike, you need to come right now. There are two people here wearing badges, and they're trying to take Jenny. They say they're from some neighborhood watch association." Lisa practically shouted into the phone, her breath coming in short gasps as she tried to stay calm. In the background, Michael could hear 8-year-old Jenny's confused voice asking questions, mixed with stern voices demanding cooperation. His military training kicked in immediately, and his mind started processing the threat level while his body moved with practiced efficiency. "I'm on my way. Keep your phone on and stay in public view," Michael commanded, already grabbing his keys and heading for his truck. As a former military tracker who served 3 tours overseas, he knew that predators often targeted children in familiar places, using official-sounding titles to confuse parents and kids. The 5-minute drive to Miller Park felt like an eternity. Michael's knuckles turned white as he gripped the steering wheel, his mind racing through possible scenarios. He'd spent years tracking dangerous targets through hostile territory, but nothing prepared him for the fear gripping his heart knowing his daughter was in potential danger. As he pulled into the parking lot, he spotted Lisa standing near the monkey bars, her arm protectively around Jenny. 2 people in matching navy blue polos stood facing them, holding clipboards and wearing plastic badges that glinted in the afternoon sun. They looked official enough to fool most people, but Michael's trained eye immediately spotted red flags. The man was heavyset with a receding hairline, perhaps in his late 40s, while the woman appeared younger, maybe early 30s, with her hair pulled back tightly. Their body language screamed authority, but their equipment told a different story. No proper identification, mismatched shoes, and their car was a beat-up sedan with local plates, not the official vehicle you'd expect from any legitimate organization. Michael approached with measured steps, keeping his hands visible while his eyes cataloged every detail. The military had taught him that information was power, and he was already gathering evidence. He noticed the man's badge read "Safety Inspector" in Times New Roman font, clearly printed from a home computer. The woman's clipboard held papers that looked suspiciously like generic forms downloaded from the internet. "What seems to be the problem here?" Michael called out, his voice steady and authoritative without being aggressive. Lisa immediately moved closer to him, Jenny clinging to her mother's other side with wide, frightened eyes. The fake officials turned to face him, and the man stepped forward with false confidence, his practice squeal already forming on his lips as he prepared to explain their supposed authority once again. Michael stood firm as the man with the fake badge stepped closer, his polished shoes gleaming in the afternoon sun. The woman clutched her clipboard tighter, and both strangers maintained eye contact like they owned the place. The man cleared his throat importantly, clearly ready to deliver his rehearsed lines. "Sir, I'm Stephen from the Neighborhood Watch Association, and this is my colleague Rebecca. We've received multiple reports about unsupervised children in this park," the man announced, gesturing toward Jenny. "We're here to ensure proper child supervision standards are being met." Behind him, Michael felt Jenny press closer to Lisa's leg, and he could hear his daughter's small sniffles. His heart ached hearing the fear in her breathing, but he kept his expression neutral. Years of interrogation training taught him to never show weakness to potential threats. He noticed Rebecca holding up a stack of papers, clearly their next prop in this convincing act. "We've documented 5 separate incidents in the past 2 weeks alone," Rebecca chimed in, waving the papers like they held official evidence. "Parents are leaving children unattended near playground equipment, swimming areas, and parking lots. It's a serious safety concern." Michael's eyes narrowed as he studied the paperwork from a distance. The forms looked official at first glance, complete with stamps and signatures, but his trained eye spotted inconsistencies. The headers used different fonts, One page had a visible watermark while others didn't, and the supposed witness statements all seemed to have identical handwriting. "May I see those documents?" Michael asked calmly, extending his hand while maintaining steady eye contact. Stephen hesitated for a split second, a tell that Michael recognized immediately. In hostile territory, hesitation often meant deception. "Well, these are preliminary reports that need to be filed with headquarters first," Stephen explained, smoothly pulling the papers back. "We're simply gathering additional witness statements today." Lisa shifted nervously beside Michael, her hand unconsciously rubbing Jenny's back in soothing circles. Michael could feel his wife's uncertainty, but he also knew she trusted his judgment. They'd been married 12 years, and she understood that his military background gave him unique insight into reading people and situations. "I understand your concern for child safety," Michael replied, his tone remaining professional but firm. "However, my wife was supervising our daughter the entire time. She's been right here on this bench with a clear view of the playground." The fake officials exchanged quick glances, and Michael caught another tell. Their practice story was starting to crack under simple questioning. Rebecca adjusted her grip on the clipboard, and Stephen's forced smile tightened slightly around the edges. "Sir, we have photographic evidence from concerned citizens," Stephen countered, pulling out his phone. "They captured images of children playing without visible adult supervision throughout the park." Michael processed this new information, while his fingers itched to pull out his own phone. Every instinct told him to start recording this encounter, but he kept his hands relaxed at his sides. The military had taught patience in gathering intelligence, and rushing could compromise the mission. These people were either running an elaborate scam or had more sinister motives involving children, and either way they needed to be stopped. Retroius. Michael's eyes zeroed in on the phone Stephen held up, noting the cracked screen and outdated model that looked nothing like official government equipment. His years of identifying fake credentials in hostile territories paid off as he spotted more inconsistencies. Stephen's hand trembled slightly while showing the device, another clear sign of deception. "I'd like to see this photographic evidence," Michael stated firmly, reaching into his own pocket for his phone. "Since you're documenting potential safety violations, I assume you won't mind if I record our conversation for my records as well." The two strangers visibly stiffened. Rebecca's clipboard lowered slightly, and Stephen's confident smirk faded into something less certain. Michael noticed how the woman's eyes darted toward the parking lot, assessing potential escape routes. He'd seen that same behavior countless times in interrogation rooms. "Actually, our organization requires consent forms for any recordings," Rebecca interjected quickly, fumbling through her papers again. "We have strict privacy policies to protect witnesses and officials." Michael raised his phone anyway, starting a video recording while keeping the device visible. His military training emphasized documentation as crucial evidence. The afternoon sun created perfect lighting conditions, capturing clear images of both suspected fraudsters. "I'm afraid I don't need consent to film in a public park," Michael explained, his voice steady as steel, "especially when someone claims governmental authority over my family. Lisa, please call the real police department while I continue this conversation." Lisa immediately pulled out her phone, her fingers shaking as she dialed. Jenny clung to her mother's waist, occasionally peeking around to watch the unfolding situation. The child's innocence contrasted sharply with the tension surrounding the adults. Stephen's face reddened with frustration, but he maintained his fabricated authority. "Sir, interfering with official investigations carries serious penalties. We're trying to handle this civilly, but you're forcing us to take more serious action." "Please elaborate on these serious actions," Michael pressed, stepping slightly in front of his family. His body automatically shifted into a protective stance, muscle memory from years of defending vulnerable positions in combat zones. Rebecca shuffled her feet nervously, clearly less committed to the scam than her partner. She kept glancing at Stephen, seeking direction as their plan fell apart. Michael recognized the dynamics immediately. She was the follower in this operation, probably recruited with promises of easy money. We have the authority to issue immediate citations and, if necessary, contact Child Protective Services, Stephen declared, reaching into his shirt pocket to produce what appeared to be a citation book. Parents who obstruct official investigations face fines up to $2,000. The citation book looked convincing from a distance, but Michael noticed the pages were blank except for the top page. Another amateur mistake. Real officials carried properly formatted tickets with carbon copies and sequential numbering. Since you claim such authority, surely you have proper identification beyond those plastic badges, Michael challenged, zooming his phone camera on their badges. And your official vehicle's license plate and agency contact information. The parking lot seemed to grow quieter as Michael's questions mounted. Other parents at the playground had stopped to watch the confrontation, some pulling out their own phones. Stephen and Rebecca found themselves increasingly surrounded by potentially hostile witnesses. "Look, we don't appreciate your attitude," Stephen snapped, his polished demeanor cracking under pressure. "Either cooperate or face the consequences." Michael smiled coldly, recognizing desperation when he saw it. These predators had chosen the wrong family to target. "Yes, let's say we forget about this whole situation right now," Stephen offered suddenly, his aggressive tone shifting to something more conciliatory. Sweat beads formed on his forehead as he glanced nervously at the growing crowd of onlookers. "You take your daughter home, and we'll mark this incident as resolved." Michael kept his phone steady, recording every word and facial expression. He'd learned in military intelligence that criminals often revealed their true nature when cornered. Stephen's sudden change in attitude confirmed his suspicions about their real motives. "That's interesting," Michael remarked, noting how Rebecca had taken a step backward, distancing herself from her partner. "If you are truly official investigators concerned about child safety, why would you suddenly drop the matter? That doesn't align with protocol for genuine child protection services." Behind him, Lisa whispered that she'd reached the police dispatcher and officers were on their way. Jenny had stopped crying but remained pressed against her mother's side, watching with wide eyes as her father confronted the strangers. Several other parents had formed a loose circle around the situation, their presence adding another layer of security. "Fine. You want to play hardball." Stephen's mask slipped further, revealing anger beneath his forced professionalism. "We know where you live. This neighborhood has houses with sprinkler systems that run late at night, kids who walk home from school alone, elderly residents who take afternoon naps with unlocked doors." Michael's jaw tightened at the thinly veiled threats. These details weren't random observations. They'd been watching the neighborhood, gathering information on vulnerable targets. His heart raced as he realized the scope of their operation went far beyond a simple playground scam. "Are you threatening my family?" Michael asked clearly for the recording, making sure every word was captured. Stephen's face paled as he realized he'd revealed too much. Rebecca visibly panicked, backing away further until she bumped into the playground fence. No, that's not what I meant," Stephen backpedaled quickly. "I'm simply saying that neighborhoods have many concerning situations that require official oversight." Michael continued filming while his mind processed the information. These strangers knew specific details about local residents' routines. They weren't just random scammers. They were organized, systematic predators who had been surveilling the community for weeks, maybe months. "Rebecca, you look uncomfortable." Michael addressed the woman directly, using her first name to create a personal connection. "Is this really what you signed up for? Making threats to families with children?" The woman avoided eye contact, her hands gripping and releasing her clipboard repeatedly. A bead of sweat trickled down her temple as she glanced between her partner and the exit. Michael recognized the signs of someone questioning their choices, someone who might break if pressed properly. "Don't talk to her," Stephen commanded, stepping protectively in front of Rebecca. But his authority over her seemed to be weakening. Michael noticed how she flinched slightly at Stephen's harsh tone. "The police will be here in 3 minutes," Lisa announced, her voice stronger now that help was approaching. She had moved to a position where she could see the parking lot entrance clearly. Stephen's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. His eyes darted between Michael's recording phone, the gathering parents, and the park entrance where police would soon arrive. The net was closing in, and he knew it. Still, dangerous people often made desperate moves when cornered, and Michael remained alert for any sudden actions. The sound of distant sirens made Stephen's head snap toward the parking lot entrance. His carefully crafted confidence crumbled completely as the wailing grew louder. Michael watched the man's shoulders slump slightly, like a deflating balloon, but kept his phone steady, knowing predators could still be dangerous when cornered. "Look, we can work something out," Stephen pleaded, his voice dropping to a desperate whisper. "Maybe we can discuss this like reasonable people. There's no need to involve law enforcement." Rebecca had gone completely pale, her hands trembling so badly that her clipboard rattled against her belt. She looked like a deer caught in headlights, realizing too late the gravity of their situation. Michael noticed how she kept glancing at her fake badge, probably wondering how she'd explain wearing it to the real police. "The time for discussion passed when you threatened my neighborhood," Michael replied firmly, positioning himself to keep both suspects in frame. "Every threat you made was recorded. Officers will want to know exactly what you meant about houses with sprinklers, kids walking alone, and elderly residents." Other parents had moved closer, creating a human barrier between the suspects and possible escape routes. An elderly man named Henry, who often played chess at the park, had cleverly positioned his walker to block one pathway. Michael appreciated how the community instinctively protected each other, even before fully understanding the threat. "You don't understand the situation." Stephen tried again, glancing nervously at his partner. "We've invested months in this operation. There's money involved, contracts signed, people expecting results." Those words hit Michael like ice water. This wasn't just two random criminals targeting one family. It was an organized scheme with financial backing and multiple participants. His military experience reminded him that operations this complex usually had multiple layers and backup players. The sirens grew deafening as two patrol cars pulled into the parking lot, lights flashing red and blue against the afternoon sun. 4 officers emerged, 2 from each vehicle, their presence immediately shifting the atmosphere. Stephen made one last desperate play, reaching for a document in his back pocket. "Officers, thank goodness you're here," he called out, switching back to his authority figure persona. This man has been interfering with an official child safety investigation. But his performance fell flat. The responding officers, both seasoned professionals, immediately recognized something was off. Officer Martinez, a 20-year veteran, approached with practiced caution while her partner Officer Johnson flanked the suspects from the other side. "Sir, could you please show me your identification and credentials?" Officer Martinez asked Stephen, her tone polite but firm. Her hand rested casually on her duty belt, ready but not threatening. Stephen fumbled with his wallet, producing a professional-looking ID card that read Child Safety Commission. Michael could tell from the officers' reactions that they'd never heard of such an organization. Rebecca had given up entirely, dropping her clipboard and raising her hand slightly, like someone ready to surrender. "Ma'am, what about you?" Officer Johnson asked Rebecca, noting her nervous demeanor. "Do you have official identification? And could you explain why you're wearing matching uniforms without proper department insignia?" Michael stepped forward carefully. "Officers, I've recorded everything on video." They made specific threats about neighborhood residents, claiming they've been watching our community for months. As Michael spoke, Officer Martinez's expression shifted from questioning to serious concern. The officers exchanged meaningful looks that suggested they'd encountered similar scams before. The investigation was about to move into high gear. Rebecca's knees buckled as she slumped against the fence, finally breaking under the pressure. "I never wanted to hurt any kids," she sobbed, covering her face with shaking hands. Stephen said, "We were just collecting fines for the homeowners association. I needed the money for my daughter's medical bills." Officer Martinez gently guided Rebecca to a nearby picnic table, sensing she might provide crucial information. Stephen shot daggers at his partner, realizing she was about to expose their entire operation. His polished shoes scraped against the gravel as he stepped away from the officers, his options rapidly disappearing. "We've been monitoring this park for weeks," Rebecca continued, her confession spilling out like water from a broken dam. "There's a whole network. Stephen has a list of 12 parks across 3 different neighborhoods. We target wealthy areas with lots of children." Michael kept filming, ensuring every confession was documented. He noticed Officer Johnson, discreetly radioing for backup while keeping a close eye on Stephen. The afternoon crowd had grown as word spread among park visitors about the unfolding drama. "Tell them about the others," Michael urged Rebecca, knowing that broken accomplices often held the keys to larger operations. "Who else is involved? How many families have you targeted?" "There are 4 other teams," Rebecca admitted, tears streaming down her cheeks. "2 married couples and another pair like us. They're working different territories today. Stephen has all their phone numbers in his contacts." Stephen finally snapped, making a desperate dash toward the parking lot. But Michael's military reflexes kicked in instantly. Without thinking, he moved to block the suspect's path while shouting, "Runner, east side." Officer Johnson sprinted after Stephen, his training and younger legs quickly closing the gap. Other parents instinctively spread out, forming a human net that left Stephen no escape routes. He managed 30 feet before Officer Johnson tackled him near the swing set, both men hitting the mulch with a heavy thud. "Get off me. Police brutality," Stephen yelled, struggling against the officer's hold. But his protests rang hollow to everyone present who had witnessed his attempted escape. Officer Martinez called for additional units to handle the growing situation. Within minutes, the park resembled a crime scene, with yellow tape being unrolled and more police vehicles arriving. Parents gathered their children, moving them away from the commotion while still staying close enough to provide witness statements. Jenny finally spoke up, her small voice cutting through the chaos. "Mommy, are the bad people going away now?" Lisa scooped up their daughter, promising that everything would be okay while Michael provided his recorded evidence to the investigators. In Stephen's car, officers discovered a treasure trove of evidence. Detailed neighborhood maps, lists of family routines, blank citation books, and most disturbing, photos of children from various parks. The scope of their operation became clearer with each new discovery. Detective Williams arrived to coordinate the investigation, immediately recognizing Michael's background. "Sir, your military training may have prevented something far worse than fraud today. We've been tracking similar operations involving potential trafficking attempts." The weight of those words settled over everyone as they realized just how dangerous these predators had been. Parents who initially thought they were witnessing a simple scam now understood they'd helped uncover something much more sinister. 2 weeks after the arrest, the community gathered at Miller Park for what locals now called the Neighborhood Safety Summit. Michael stood before a crowd of nearly 200 residents, holding Jenny's small hand as he shared their story. The sunshine felt warmer today, somehow less threatening than that fateful afternoon when everything changed. "We caught these criminals because we worked together," Michael explained, scanning the familiar faces in the crowd. "They counted on us being too polite, too trusting, and too isolated from each other. They studied our neighborhood because they thought we'd protect our privacy more than we'd protect each other." Detective Williams joined Michael at the microphone, revealing the full scope of what investigators had uncovered. The fake HOA scheme was part of a multi-state operation targeting affluent neighborhoods with predictable routines. Stephen and his network had successfully scammed 15 families for a total of $43,000 before attempting to escalate to more serious crimes. Thanks to Mr. Michael's quick thinking and recording, we arrested 12 suspects across 3 counties, Detective Williams announced. Rebecca's testimony helped us locate hidden documents and track financial transactions. The impact goes beyond just our community. Lisa watched with pride as her husband demonstrated basic safety protocols to groups of parents. His military background became an asset rather than a distant memory as he taught practical surveillance detection and emergency response techniques. Other veterans in the neighborhood stepped forward to help, creating an informal but effective neighborhood watch program. The transformation of the community was remarkable. Neighbors who barely knew each other's names now exchanged phone numbers and patrol schedules. An elderly resident named Mrs. Peterson organized a buddy system for children walking to and from school. Young parents established group chats to share alerts and updates about suspicious activities. Jenny had become something of a neighborhood hero, though she didn't fully understand her role in the dramatic events. She now proudly showed visitors the special whistle her father gave her, attached to a lanyard with emergency contacts. At school, she confidently told friends about stranger danger and the importance of finding safe adults when something feels wrong. The fake officials' mugshots appeared in local newspapers alongside warnings about similar scams. Police departments from neighboring cities reached out to Michael, asking him to share his experience at community safety workshops. His unique perspective as both a protective parent and trained security professional proved invaluable in teaching others. 6 months later, Miller Park bustled with the usual activities, but with visible changes. Bright yellow signs displayed emergency contact numbers and simple guidelines for verifying official credentials. Parents maintained visual contact with their children while allowing them to play freely, no longer paralyzed by fear, but vigilant through awareness. Rebecca received a reduced sentence in exchange for her cooperation, entering a witness protection program after testifying against the ringleaders. Her daughter got the medical treatment needed, paid for through victim restitution funds. Stephen and the other main perpetrators faced lengthy prison sentences for fraud, impersonating officials, and conspiracy charges related to their larger criminal network. The community's experience inspired a statewide initiative, mandating clearer identification requirements for anyone conducting official business in residential areas. County offices implemented hotlines for residents to verify the legitimacy of supposed government representatives instantly. On quiet afternoons, Michael still visited Miller Park with Jenny, watching her swing confidently on the monkey bars where their ordeal began. Other parents often approached to thank him, sharing how that frightening day had brought their neighborhood closer together. The incident had transformed a collection of houses into a true community, united by their shared commitment to protecting each other's families. Retroclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. 3.7 Sonnet.